Yeah, I mean, what I said was I agree with the investment in education. I also agree with the investment in free universal health care, as well as the involvement in helping end apartheid in South Africa. I would hope that everybody agrees those things are good things. And trying to push the false narrative that I was a supporter of the oppressive things that he did is just not true.
You were taken out of context, you think, some of the remarks you made? Which was before he passed away, I understand.
Yes. Yeah, it was completely out of context. Because once again, what I said was I support the investment in education. I never said I support the oppressive things that he did.
Colin, you're wearing the Malcolm X shirt today. The controversy stems from another shirt you were wearing that had Malcolm X with Fidel Castro on it, correct?
Yes.
Is there any symbolism behind the shirt that you're wearing today?
I've worn many Malcolm X shirts. He was a great man, and he lived the life that he talked about. He was someone that truly walked the walk, was a great leader for the African community, and someone that I admire.
Can you understand why some people in South Florida were concerned about wearing a shirt of Fidel Castro, a dictator who oppressed people? Can you understand the concern?
I can understand the concern, but for me, what I said was that was a historic moment for Malcolm. I'm not going to cut out pieces of Malcolm's life. In 1960 when they met in Harlem, that was a historic moment. And that's something that I will always be true to what Malcolm was, what he represented, because I'm not going to cut out history.
Colin, did you find it ironic, any thoughts on just after this controversy happened with you getting into this discussion about Castro with a reporter that you end up in Miami when Castro passes away?
Very unique circumstances. It's hard to really say that, it was, coincidence or whatever it may be. Once again, very unique circumstances.
So finally, is there anything you'd like to clarify about Castro's situation? He passed away right now, and just clarify your thoughts on that?
I feel like I did clarify them. I believe in the investment in education. I believe in the free universal health care, which we don't have here. And I also believe in, the positive thing he did in helping end apartheid in South Africa.
Couple more. Kyle, how much do you worry about the Castro situation and also not voting? People losing track of the message you were trying to put forth when this all began.
Well, I don't worry about people losing track of what the message is, because I've been true to the message. I'm against systematic oppression, and voting is a part of that system, and I've talked at length about why I believe that.
Back at it once again, family. Chauncey, aka the Black Separatist, with another GMOGmedia TV spotlight. All right, this is a heavy topic I want to talk about, family. Colin Kaepernick's stand on Fidel Castro. He was just down here yesterday playing against Miami Dolphins, and the 49ers is my all-time favorite team. All right, I know we have a terrible season, but Colin Kaepernick is actually playing exceptional. He's playing exceptional for a garbage team like the 49ers have contributed this season. All right, so I'm going to break all this stuff down, the Fidel Castro controversy, the death of Fidel Castro, why Miami, specifically Little Havana, and the Cubans in Miami are celebrating the death of Fidel Castro versus what everybody else in terms of the Hispanic community, why they're mourning. I'm going to break all this stuff down in the video, family. Before I start on my commentary, once again, if you're new, my name is Chauncey, aka the Black Separatist. On this channel, I talk about counter racism. I also talk about issues that affect black people collectively as a group. And I offer my suggestions on how to replace this broken system of injustice, this broken system of racism, which is white supremacy, with a system of justice. So if you subscribe to that ideology, please subscribe to this channel. If you don't, subscribe anyway, because you're hate watching, you're trolling, you're doing whatever, wasting your time, but at the end of the day, it's a view count for me, so it's a win-win situation for me anyway. All right, so haters, welcome. Anyway, family, so Colin Kaepernick, and I played the video before my actual commentary started. Y'all saw the video interview, or y'all heard the interview of Colin Kaepernick addressing the media about him wearing a Fidel Castro t-shirt with Malcolm X back in August, and a South Florida reporter, felt some kind of way about the t-shirt. All right, and it was the reporter Armando Salguero. Now, I'm familiar with Armando. He's been a sports reporter for a while in South Florida, and Armando felt some type of way regarding that t-shirt because his family, according to an article that I read, in 1967, he was broken up from his family by Fidel Castro's regime. And, he felt some type of way about that shirt because of his family being broken up by Fidel Castro in Cuba. Okay. And he couldn't be with his father, etc., etc. So that's why he felt some type of way about that t-shirt. And he brought it up in a conference call prior to the 49ers meeting with the Miami Dolphins this past Sunday, and he kept pressing him about the issue, etc., etc. Now, I'm going to bring up an article, and you'll have it on the screen as well, in regards to how Armando felt about Colin Kaepernick's stance, his political stance that he's taking this season about, not kneeling for the so-called national anthem, his political views, his ideology, etc. And I'm going to have it on the screen so you can see, and I'll read it to you guys. So this is from Armando Salguero. He says, look, I understand that Kaepernick's complaint that some people are falsely in prison and others go away for long stretches for committing multiple minor crimes. But what is it about the nuance he doesn't get? There's no way the blanket statement he just made is correct. My family breaking up because my parents wanted me to be free is not and never will be the same. For example, a father of two in the United States murdering someone and being away from his kids because he was convicted and serving time. My father and the murderer are not similar. So breaking up families cannot and always will never be equated with breaking up families. To believe so is not thinking the same issue through, and not thinking issues through is a bad look for so-called protest leaders such as Kaepernick. See, that's the problem with this guy right here. Armando, you just contradicted yourself. Your first statement, you said, look, I understand that Kaepernick's complaint that some people are falsely imprisoned and others go away for long stretches of time committing multiple minor crimes. So you went from multiple minor crimes to, you had an example of a father of two being convicted of murder. Murder is not a minor crime. So what Colin Kaepernick basically stated, what you failed to understand, people like you, you classify yourself as white Hispanic, and you want to align yourself with white supremacists like Donald Trump, and I'm gonna get into that later. You took the stand by equating something that Colin Kaepernick didn't even transpire in what he's trying to do. Mass incarceration, all right, that was a system that was created by the dominant white society, specifically 1994, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton, all right, the 1994 crime bill. Now, what Colin Kaepernick is talking about specifically is mass incarceration of black and brown people, because they get charged for minor crimes and they get prosecuted by the full extent of the law, the 3-strike rule policy, all right, etc., etc. So black people and brown people, we get charged for minor crimes to the fullest extent of the law in comparison to our European counterparts. Those are facts. Those are the things that Colin Kaepernick was addressing, which you failed to understand. So you're talking about, well, I understand that, black people get charged for minor crimes, But here's my example. It's not the same as my family getting broken up by a dictator and a mass murderer, because they like to say he's a mass murderer. Fidel Castro, who I couldn't be with my father. It's not the same, because I'll give you an example. The example is, it's not the same because a father of two who is a convicted murderer being broken up by his children is not the same. Again, you went from one extreme to another, which they don't correlate, they don't match. That's a contradiction. All right? That's a complete contradiction. So you have a lot of Cuban Americans, specifically in Little Havana, because I'm in South Florida. I'm in Miami Gardens. People in Little Havana who are celebrating the death of Fidel Castro. You have people who are classified as white Hispanic. They're celebrating the death of Fidel Castro because their families were involved in the exile from Cuba. So obviously they feel some type of way regarding Fidel Castro. You have other folks outside of the Cuban community who are mourning the death of Fidel Castro. As a matter of fact, let me play a clip of the response around the world regarding Fidel Castro and how people in South Florida are celebrating the death versus other communities around the world, and they're mourning the death. I'll play the clip right now. Here you go.
Esto es en respuesta a esas imágenes en las que, como buitres, la gusanera de Miami sale a festejar, ¿no?, la muerte de una persona con la que no pudieron en vida, ¿no? Es decir, qué pírrica victoria tienen cuando después de 683 intentos de asesinato fallaron.
My father, he's old, he's 80, so he can't be here dancing with us. He was in jail for 3 years. My father-in-law, he was in jail for 20 years for the same reasons. They were not criminals, they were just regular people with different ideas. Fidel Castro was our Hitler, so this is how we celebrate.
All right, so that was the clip from AJ Plus that was on my Twitter timeline. So that's the reaction from around the world, around Hispanic communities, regarding the death of Fidel Castro. Now, I want to point out the hypocrisy of Cubans, specifically white Cubans in South Florida, or actually the whole state of Florida specifically. The hypocrisy is how white Cubans want to align themselves with white supremacy. All right? Specifically, you have the opportunity to put in office, right, the first Cuban American to become the president of the United States. That's Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio couldn't even win his home state in Florida. Couldn't get his own people to vote for him. And his family is affected by Fidel Castro. But you guys didn't vote for him. You voted for a white supremacist, Donald Trump. You align yourself with white supremacy. See, that's the hypocrisy right there. You want to align yourself with white supremacy, but not your own blood. Right? And there's some reasoning behind it. I read some articles online and some comments during the comment section, et cetera, et cetera. They would say some Cubans wanted a radical change, right? They wanted a radical change from the current administration, which is Obama. They just wanted a complete change. They talked about jobs, et cetera, et cetera. But again, you align yourself with someone, Donald Trump, a white supremacist who wants to build a wall, right, to stop immigrants from coming into the United States. So let's say he wants to put a wall for Cuban exiles or the Cuban community. How would that affect your logic? How would that affect your reasoning? Right? So that's a major hypocrisy right there. You didn't support Marco Rubio. You align yourself with the white supremacist Donald Trump. So the thing about it is, family, Fidel Castro's death, okay? people have different emotions about what he did. They want to call him a dictator, a mass murderer, a racist. Some people call him a revolutionary. The facts are, especially with Colin Kaepernick pointed out, the facts are he did a lot for black people. He did a whole lot for black people. All right. As Colin Kaepernick said, he helped in apartheid in South Africa. He helped in apartheid completely. He reached out to Nelson Mandela. Okay. He tried to reach out to the victims of Hurricane Katrina. All right. He met with black leaders such as Malcolm X. Okay. He specifically wanted to help Afro-Cubans in Cuba specifically for literacy, which is why Colin Kaepernick pointed out that Cuba has one of the highest literacy rates in the world, 99.7. That's remarkable. Completely remarkable. All right. So again, you classify yourself as white Cuban and you align yourself with people like Donald Trump and not supporting Marco Rubio. You look into the mirror. You look into the mirror and find out why. Okay? You don't want to back your own bloodline, but you want to back a white supremacist. And then you got the nerve to attack Colin Kaepernick for him wearing a Fidel Castro and Malcolm X t-shirt because you felt some type of way about what he stood for, etc., etc. And people like Armando Salguero make these ridiculous claims by comparing a contrast of minor crimes versus a mass murderer to be convicted and equating that to, well, that's not the same as Fidel Castro breaking up my family in 1967. Complete contradiction. Complete contradiction. All right, family? So that's what I wanted to talk about with this story. Again, Fidel Castro did a lot for black people. A lot for black people. You can call him a racist, a mass murderer, a dictator. The facts are he did a lot for black folks, specifically in his own community in Cuba and in Africa. All right? That's what he did, and those are facts. All right? So make sure you guys leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All right? That's what I wanted to talk about with today's topic. Chauncey, a.k.a. the Black Separatist, signing out. Peace.